Hi, my name is Ken Turner, and I have the privilege of serving as the president and the CEO of the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. It's an absolute pleasure to talk with you today about the Massachusetts Life Sciences ecosystem. For those not familiar, the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center is an economic development and investment authority with the mission of supporting the growth and the development of the life sciences here in the Commonwealth. As the hub of the life sciences ecosystem, we aim to encourage innovation through investments in good science and business, strengthen and protect our Commonwealth's global leadership position in the life sciences, accelerate the commercialization of promising treatments, therapies, and cures that will improve patient care, and create jobs and drive economic and STEM workforce development. Since 2007, the Life Sciences Center has strategically deployed more than $796 million in Massachusetts through a combination of grants, loans, capital infrastructure investments, tax incentives, and workforce programs. These investments have created thousands of jobs and propelled the development of new therapies, devices, and scientific advancements that are improving patient health and well-being in Massachusetts and well beyond. We are the world's leading life science ecosystem as Massachusetts ranks near or at the top of any metric you can find. Life science companies of all sizes and sectors continue to find the people, the ideas, and the resources they need here in Massachusetts. It's an honor to talk about two companies who have made their own mark here in the Commonwealth. Lyndra Therapeutics is a fast-growing novel drug delivery company with multiple Massachusetts locations. They are aiming to create the pill of tomorrow that minimizes the need for daily oral therapies for a range of diseases from Alzheimer's to HIV, which could significantly improve medication adherence, health outcomes, and help keep the costs of care low. And in Worcester, which serves as the anchor of the thriving life sciences cluster in the central region of the Commonwealth, we have Mustang Bio. This clinical stage biopharmaceutical company is focused on translating today's medical breakthroughs in cell and gene therapies into potential cures for certain cancers and tumors, as well as rare genetic diseases. Mustang Bio is growing its manufacturing hub here in Worcester, aiding its overall mission to deliver next-generation therapies to patients in need worldwide. I am so excited for you to learn more about these two enterprises which are growing rapidly, creating jobs, and spurring innovation. They epitomize the level of excellence companies can achieve here in the Commonwealth when they decide to grow, locate, and expand. We hope their stories entice you to learn more about our Commonwealth. Please know you have the Life Sciences Center, Mass Bio, and partners throughout Massachusetts dedicated to ensuring your success and growth. Thank you, and we hope to see you soon here in Massachusetts.
Lyndra Therapeutics' core purpose is to reinvent medicine for a healthier world, and I'm excited to share our story. Lyndra is built on a simple premise: make daily pills a thing of the past. By changing how people take medication, we have the opportunity to improve health outcomes and therefore patient lives. In 5 short years, we have been able to come from a concept on a napkin in Dr. Robert Langer's MIT labs, complete our first phase 2 studies, and prepare for our first regulatory submission. Imagine never taking daily pills again. Instead, you take them weekly or even monthly, making it easier to stay adherent while also improving the way medication is delivered, leading to better safety and efficacy. Ultra-long-acting oral medication has never been done before. Teams have tried, but we are the first. Lyndra's ultra-long-acting dosage form is designed to reside in the stomach and slowly release medicine for a week or longer. Our platform is modular and can incorporate almost any medicine that would normally be taken daily, including combinations of medicines, all in one capsule. From drugs to treat common conditions such as Alzheimer's disease and type 2 diabetes, as well as schizophrenia and HIV. By changing the pill, not the patient, we are working to solve the issue of medication non-adherence, which results in $300 billion of avoidable annual healthcare costs and 125,000 deaths per year, and that's in the US alone. By 2025, we plan to have 5 products approved, and with continued focus, 5 to 10 years from now, no one will need to take daily pills. We are literally reinventing medicine here at Lyndra, and being based in Massachusetts has been the key to our success in tackling our bold vision with aggressive timelines. Lyndra leverages all that Massachusetts has to offer, from access to a diverse and talented workforce, industry collaborations, and top minds in science and academia. We hope you enjoy this virtual tour of our new GMP manufacturing facility in Lexington, where we are taking things that we designed at our Watertown R&D facility, developing them further and scaling them up to be available for millions of patients around the world, while also driving down the cost of goods, which is essential for our global health mission.
Lyndra Therapeutics' core purpose is to reinvent medicine for a healthier world, and I'm excited to share our story. Imagine never taking daily pills again. Instead, you take them weekly or even monthly, making it easier to stay adherent while also improving the way the drug is delivered, leading to better safety and efficacy. Lyndra's ultra-long-acting dosage form enables this, and we make and encapsulate our star-shaped medicines called stellates that safely reside in the stomach and slowly release medicine for a week or longer.
Lyndra is built on a simple premise: make daily pills a thing of the past. And here in Watertown, our R&D team is fundamental and essential to making that happen. Ultra-long-acting oral medications have never been done before. Teams have tried, but we're the first to succeed. Our trajectory from MIT to Kendall Square, from Kendall Square to Lab Central, to where we are today is a function of needing to move into a space that could accommodate such a novel engineering challenge and a growing team.
So this building really symbolizes Lyndra taking the next step. When we were looking for a building, build out our R&D facility, this is a really unique opportunity. It was an empty building, concrete floors and concrete pillars and nothing else. So in 5 short years, we were able to come from a concept on a napkin in the Langer lab to multiple phase 2 clinical trials ongoing. We have a product development perspective that is end-to-end thinking. There are scientists on the bench that are creating brand new concepts, but in the same room are manufacturing engineers saying, can I make that in a few years from now or in a few months from now?
What we're doing here, the things we're making, and the kinds of ways in which we're testing things are really only happening here at Lyndra and nowhere else in the world. The team here is very special. They are so committed to the mission of the company. The ingenuity, collaboration, and relentless spirit to solve problems is just on display every day.
Being a part of a team that's working to develop a game-changing medicine is what brings us all into work each day. Lyndra's commitment to social responsibility has been ingrained in the culture since day one. Early work on this technology was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the Gates Foundation continues to be closely involved with what we do. It's been amazing to see the progress in our ability to manufacture these stellates. And when we did our first toxicology studies, we had 10 people lined up, hunched over these tiny little parts, carefully assembling all these things by hand. To now, we've been able to scale this up in order to make thousands and have line of sight to making millions.
In addition to building out our own facility, we built custom equipment required to develop the dosage form rapidly. One piece of equipment that's really important for us as we push forward into the clinical trials quickly is the simulated stomach that we've developed. This system enables us to evaluate how the dosage form would actually behave in the stomach of a patient. This really accelerates our clinical development timeline, where we take a concept, 3D print or manufacture it, test it in the simulated stomach the next day, and know if it's a go ahead or if we need to make some changes.
Every drug, every compound we think about, we put it in the lens of the patient or their caregiver. It's a patient-centric approach to drug development. What I believe is really unique about Lyndra's clinical development is our adoption of an agile approach, but that allows us to rapidly advance our thinking and rapidly advance our clinical studies. Where I see Lyndra in the next year is that we're going to be into many clinical trials across different disease areas. In 2 years, we'll be advancing many of those trials into patient populations and into pivotal trials. And within 5 years, we're going to be offering solutions to medical problems and unmet needs across the globe. For me, that's the ultimate goal as a physician, is to give the therapy for the patient that they need when they need it and to drive the best outcomes you can.
Our rapid growth is completely and utterly linked to our success in clinical outcomes. And that really means that we're scaling up our manufacturing.
At our new GMP manufacturing facility in Lexington, we're really taking the things that we designed here at our Watertown R&D facility, developing them further and scaling them to be available for millions of patients around the world.
In the next few minutes, you'll see the unique manufacturing processes that we've developed here to support the production of our ultra-long-lasting oral dosage form. A few steps away, we have our 10 flexible clean room GMP suites and our QC lab. This is where we manufacture multiple medicines to support our ongoing clinical trials. So this is our extrusion area. It all starts when we mix our polymers, excipients, and active pharmaceutical materials and feed them into our extruder. Through the hot melt extrusion process, the materials are heated and blended together, creating a homogeneous mix, before being cut into small-sized pellets for the next extrusion process. These pellets are fed back through a second hot melt extrusion process to create a triangular rod shape. These will subsequently be cut into the required lengths for a stellate. With these extrusion processes, we manufacture both drug and non-drug containing components to be used in the final product. This solid blended mixture of materials is designed to release a highly controlled amount of medicine in the gastric environment over the target duration, such as 7 days for a once-weekly therapeutic. At assembly, we bring the triangular rod shapes that have been cut to length together with our elastomeric core. To address the challenge of having to assemble all these multiple components for each stellate, we custom-designed automated pick-and-place equipment. Pick-and-place units are used in many industries, but ours had to be specifically designed for pharmaceutical manufacturing at the volumes required to meet our goals. Once individual components are put into place, we apply heat and pressure to weld them into a stellate. This unit also had to be custom designed to meet our rigorous quality standards. As we expand into full-scale production, we plan to combine the pick-and-place and laser welding units into a single continuous flow. At this point in the process, we have our stellate fully loaded with active ingredients and ready to be folded and placed in a standard capsule. Once the capsule is loaded, it must be coated. This is our final process before packaging. Before packaging capsules into bottles, they are coated with a slippery substance to ensure comfortable swallowing and easy passage into the stomach. What you see here is a fairly typical capsule coater spraying our proprietary coating onto the final product. When a patient opens their medicine from this facility, they'll only see a familiar capsule that looks like a multivitamin. The patient swallows the capsule like any other medication. Once in the stomach, the capsule dissolves away to release the stellate, which delivers drug continuously without interfering with digestion. The outer diameter of the stellate is large enough that it does not exit through the opening at the bottom of the stomach and stays in the stomach for the desired dosing period. For example, 7 days for a once-a-week dose. At the end of the dosing, the linkers that connect the triangular rod-shaped arms to the elastomeric core soften and disintegrate, at which point all components of the stellate exit the stomach and are excreted along with undigested food.
From day one, we've been ambitious and we've taken on a challenge that many people had tried to solve, but no one was successful at. I think the fact that people have been trying to do this for decades now shows that this technology would be game-changing in the industry. But it also could be life-changing for patients.
The work we're doing here at the R&D facility in Watertown and at our GMP manufacturing facility in Lexington really has the potential to change how medicine is administered to patients. I'm seeing the evolution of ultra long-acting dosage forms really blossom into what I think will be a revolution.
Lyndra is bigger than any one person. Even now that we have 2 facilities, our team works as one. Lyndra's impact on global and public health is going to be unparalleled. The sky's the limit for Lyndra.
By 2025, we plan to have 5 products approved for diseases ranging from type 2 diabetes to schizophrenia, and will soon make millions of stellates per year. 5 to 10 years from now, no one will need to take daily pills. We are literally reinventing medicine here.
Hi, I'm Dr. Knut Niss, Chief Technology Officer of Mustang Bio. I'm looking forward to providing you a tour of our facility in Worcester, Massachusetts today. Mustang is a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company focused on translating today's medical breakthroughs in cell and gene therapies into tomorrow's potential cures for hematological cancers, solid tumors, and rare genetic diseases, including X-linked severe combined immunodeficiency, also known as the bubble boy disease or X-SCID. The energy and passion of our world-class team of cell and gene therapy experts drives our mission to bring hope to patients worldwide as we work today to develop next-generation medicines. Our 28,000 square foot research and development facility is located in the Medical Science Park, right across the street from the University of Massachusetts Medical School. This facility enables us to process personalized cell therapies to be used in the clinical development and potential commercialization of CAR-T products for the treatment of aggressive forms of cancer. Establishing in-house cell therapy research capabilities has enabled us to continue to differentiate our product candidates through innovation in cell processing and the evaluation of immuno-oncology technologies, like checkpoint inhibitors and oncolytic viruses. Before we begin our tour, I want to thank the teams at Mass Bio and Bio for the opportunity to share our work. So let's get started. Welcome to Mustang Bio. We're here in Worcester, Massachusetts, in the Medical Science Park from UMass. This is our facility that we're in here now for pretty much 3 years. We're standing in the lobby, and we're going to take a quick tour through the facility. So this is our original office space. I call it original because when we started Mustang in 2017 was a build out here, and then into 2018 when we moved in here, we were around 20 to 30 people. This office space was very sufficient. We outgrew this office space, so we're building more. We will see that later. We have roughly 20 plus people in this space right now. This office space is basically for people working in the lab. As you're probably aware, people can't eat and drink in the lab, so they need an office space where they can do the paperwork and have a coffee at the same time. In addition, we have some office space for people that don't work in the lab, like human resources, finance, etc. So this is our break room area. We try to create a space where people can socialize and sit together over a coffee or a bagel, because we know that's really important in our space, where people can talk about science in a more informal way. It's not ideal right now because of the growth we had, but we're going back to a more comfortable space eventually. So this is the first lab we're entering. This is a normal bio lab. We are BL2 labs because we use human cells and human blood products, including to the lentivirus, so we have to be BL2. This is a normal lab, I would say. There's nothing special. We have the biosafety cabinets, incubators, centrifuges, that kind of thing. So right now in here is nothing you would consider specific to cell and gene therapy. So we're now in the process development lab. Mustang Bio is a cell therapy focused company. We do CAR-Ts and program for X-SCID that are cell therapy related products. Basically what happens is we're getting cells from the patient, modify them, and then return them in a safe way to the patient. This lab is really critical to our mission because this is where we can develop the processes that will eventually run in the clean room space that we'll see later. So everything that you see in the clean room space in terms of equipment, you see out here, including this machine, which is actually an interesting one. This machine basically provides us the tool to get the cells of interest from the starting material. So typically our starting material would be what's called a leukapheresis. It looks like a blood bag, a big bag of blood. Within that leukapheresis product are the cells of interest. This machine helps us isolate these cells, but also helps us getting rid of cells that we don't want in our process. So bottom line, this machine is basically a sorting machine that uses magnetic beads, a lot of pumps to move certain wash solutions, etc. around. And what happens is we start the process here, putting a leukapheresis in. Hours later, we get the cells of interest. This is our QC lab, quality control. Mustang is very proud of having all quality control release assays in-house. Basically, when we build out Mustang as a company, and certainly in this facility, we wanted to make sure that two things happen. One is that we manufacture the drug product for the patient in-house with no third parties involved. And the other one was that we release that drug product to the patient as well. Now, for releasing a drug product, there's certain assays that need to happen. One really important safety assay is, for example, sterility. And the machine I'm standing next to is a machine that determines the sterility of the product. Basically what happens is we put samples into this machine and it measures bacterial and fungal growth, and we will never hopefully have any bacterial fungal growth, but this machine would detect it and tell us it's a sterile product. This is our Analytical Development Lab. I mentioned previously we have full capabilities for quality control and all the release assays to release the product to the patient. This is the lab where we would develop these assays. Basically what happens is we're going to take patient samples, we're going to run the process, which is modifying the cells, grow them for a few days. Along the way we will take samples, make sure that the cells are healthy and growing. At the end of the process, when we make the product, we take samples to do all the release assays. Part of it is the sterility that I mentioned. Part of it is to make sure that actually the cells are indeed viable and alive, and also only the cells that we are interested in. So all these assays are developed in this lab and then transferred to the quality control. This is our freezer farm. It's not big, but it's enough for what we do right now. As you can tell, we have multiple deep freezers here, minus 80 degrees, minus 20. These are freezers that are controlled simply because we store a lot of critical samples in here, either from patients or from other processes, including materials that we need to have control. So two things that are important. One is we monitor these freezers remotely. In other words, if this freezer would go out of temperature, we would literally get phone calls in the facility alerting people that we need to pay attention and reset it, including emails. It also stores all the data so we know when the freezer went out of temperature and when it came back. The other thing, because they are controlled materials, these freezers are under lock, meaning only certain people that have a right to get to these samples can get to these samples. This is our carbon dioxide room. I know it doesn't look much, but it's actually a very critical room to what we do. This is where we store centrally our CO2 that is pumped into each incubator in the facility, including the clean rooms. CO2 is a critical component for the incubators to maintain healthy cells. The system is designed in a way that if this tank would run empty, it would automatically switch to a backup system so we never run out of CO2, and it would alert us to change the tank. In addition, because CO2 tanks can sometimes be leaky, we have a CO2 monitoring system in here. So if the CO2 level in this room gets too high, at a dangerous level, there would be an alarm blaring on the outside of the room and people would know not to get in here. We're now standing in front of our clean room space. Unfortunately, we cannot enter the clean room space because you have to be qualified to go in there. And in addition, we really want to limit the people in the clean room to the people that need to be in there, simply because when I say clean room, this room is as clean as it comes. There's literally no bacterium, fungus, anything growing in there. We sample that every day and make sure that our clean rooms are clean. Now, what you see behind me is through the windows is a clean room. We have 4 of them. They're pretty much all the same. There's nothing special to the cell therapy component that I mentioned before what we do. These rooms are designed to be flexible for different processes. It comes with the equipment that we put into the room, what happens in terms of product. These are basically the rooms where we make the patient material the drug product that goes back to the patient. So what actually happens is we receive the patient's cells as starting material in the normal loading dock. It will be reviewed by quality and released by quality into these clean rooms, and then people will manufacture the product here. We have 2 different product manufacturing, one for the CAR-T part, which takes 7 days, one for the ex-kit, which is a hematopoietic stem cell product that only takes 3 days. So the cells are getting in these rooms for 3 to 7 days, depending on what the product is, and then get deep frozen and stored. So I mentioned earlier in the quality control lab that we have one critical component for the product release is sterility. That machine I was standing next to, where we measure basically bacterial and fungal growth. So you can boil it down to this. Everything we do in here is designed for that machine not to give us a signal. In other words, the entire effort of keeping everything so clean comes down to the fact that when we run the sample in that machine, we have no signal. And it takes a lot of effort in terms of keeping the clean rooms clean, the people not bringing anything in. But it's basically, that's the goal, that machine I pointed out earlier is not giving us a positive signal. This is the entrance to the clean rooms that we saw earlier. Basically, what we want to do is we want people to come out of the normal environment, go stepwise into the clean room. So the first thing that you do is we actually step on these sticky pads that get the dirt off the shoes. And then to the right is the entrance into the clean room space. The first room is what we call controlled air, so it's already cleaner than and filtered air that is not the same air that we have in this space. We then get into what we call the ISO 8 area. ISO is a standard that tells you how much particles can be in that airspace. So the higher the ISO, the dirtier the air, so to speak. From that ISO 8, you go into the ISO 7 clean rooms. Now we're talking about very clean air. And then actually in the clean rooms, you work in the biosafety cabinets, which are ISO 5, which is very, very clean. All this is to prevent any contamination of the cells when we work with them. I mentioned earlier what I called the original office space over on the other side, which we moved into 2018. Ever since, we actually grew faster than we anticipated and are now at around 60 plus employees. So our office space was way too small. And as an interim solution, we actually built this office space. And as you can tell, it's nothing special, but it was enabled us to put more people into a real desk. The interim office where we are right now eventually will become clean room space when we need more of that. So that's why we call it the interim office. And we will see when we have to knock it down. This is our warehouse area. All our processing that we do in the labs and in the clean rooms are using single-use materials. We don't reuse materials. It's one-time use and done. So to assure ongoing processing and in the future, we have to store a lot of material to make sure that if there are ever supply chain issues, we are covered for the next few weeks, if not months. In addition, we have an area in the warehouse that is secured with locks because some of the materials should not be used by everyone, only by certain people. So we control that through a lock system. So I mentioned the interim office that we call interim for a reason. Mustang grew faster than anticipated, and we're still growing pretty fast. We anticipate by the end of this year to be 80 plus employees. So we definitely need more office space, which we're basically looking at right now, the construction for this. We started this construction a few months ago. We'll create more office space for 30 to 40 people, which is a real office space. We will have some extra conference rooms, a kitchen area, all that. On top of that, we also will build out more QC lab space, actually a new QC lab, a bigger QC lab to meet the demand that we anticipate, have some extra warehousing, etc., which will help that the lab space that we looked at gets actually less pressure with less people in that. So the construction is going well, and we anticipate that by the summer of 2021, we'll move in here permanently.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Ken Turner, and I have the pleasure of serving as the president and the CEO of the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. I will be co-moderating today's panel discussion along with my good friend and colleague, Kendall Berlin O'Connell, who serves as the president and the COO of the Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. We are excited to be talking about the Massachusetts Life Sciences space, and we're being joined by representatives of two companies who represent the best of what the ecosystem has to offer here in the Commonwealth. Our panelists today are Jessica Ballinger, the Chief Operating Officer at Lyndra Therapeutics, and Dr. Knut Niss, the Chief Technology Officer at Mustang Bio. Kendall, grateful to be partnering with you today. And to both of our panelists, it's a privilege to talk about the success your respective enterprises are experiencing here in Massachusetts. So how about we jump right in?
Sounds great. Thanks, Ken. Thrilled to be here.
Terrific. So Jessica, first question to you. Can you discuss how being located in Massachusetts has been beneficial to your company's growth and its success?
Well, first, I'd like to say thanks to both Ken and Kendall for inviting us here today to talk about this important conversation. I think if you've heard our story with Lyndra, living in Massachusetts is essential for our success. We are developing for the first time ever an oral once weekly long-acting oral medication where you take one capsule and it delivers the medication throughout the week or even up to a month all on its own. Completely creative, innovative, and transformative. What it really means in the end of the day, that Your medicine will be delivered consistently and efficiently and safely, and you can just go about your life and never mind if you're a caregiver, you don't have to chase around family members or even your loved ones to be able to make sure that they're taking their medication and that they're actually getting the medication as prescribed. We couldn't do this if we didn't have the ecosystem in Massachusetts. The amount of resources, both in people, proximity to schools, financial resources, and the proximity of our sites located together to allow both the research and development and scale up and manufacturing to go at the speed we want to go is only possible in an ecosystem like Massachusetts.
That's great. I mean, Massachusetts really is the best place in the world for life sciences. And so part of that, and Knut, this is going to be a question for you, but Worcester is definitely one of Massachusetts' premier life sciences hubs outside of Cambridge and Boston. And they have a wealth of resources like UMass Medical and so many other top academic institutions. We have MBI's incubator that has been there since 1985, so incredible, and so many amazing companies have spun out of there. And just generally a flourishing life sciences ecosystem out in Worcester. So Knut, I'd love to hear why Mustang Bio chose Worcester as their hub to advance their research and development.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for having me here. So I got to go back a little bit in time. So I'm with Mustang now 4 years. I was employee number 2. And my first job was actually at Mustang was to determine if we want to do what everybody else has done in our space. We're in the cell and gene therapy space, particularly the autologous cell therapy space, where each batch you manufacture is only for one patient. So we needed to understand if we want to go to contract manufacturing organizations or build our own facility out. It became very clear that it's more cost effective in the long run to build our own facility. So once we knew that, we had to look around and find a facility. And Worcester was actually, the facility we ended up was the very first facility we looked at. We are right across the street from UMass Medical School in the medical science park. We like the environment, but as you can imagine, when you look for facilities, there are other factors, cost, location is one of them, of course. For the autologous world, actually, it's very critical for us to have access to airports, short logistical lines. So Worcester was high on the list. Nevertheless, we looked everywhere. To be honest with you, we toured 40, 50 different facilities, north, south, west. East, not so much, there's an ocean in the way. And we came back to Worcester for various reasons. One was UMass Medical School, WPI down the road, the infrastructure that all this provided us, AbbVie above the hill, above us. So that was very attractive. Being in the medical science park was very attractive. And then ultimately we signed the lease and started build out. While that happened, actually, we didn't know that at the time. We heard from various people in Worcester that there is a bubbling up life science, especially biomanufacturing approach in Worcester. So we came in at the right time, and we are there now. We moved in June 2018, and we never regretted our decision. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see the growth out in Worcester, and so exciting to continue watching this, particularly as you mentioned, Knut, around biomanufacturing.
Yeah, I would add, we initially we were a little bit concerned about the location, not having necessarily the access that we would have to talent right in Cambridge. However, we are different. We're biomanufacturing. We look for CMC people and manufacturing people. And frankly, our business model has been built around more experienced workforce, I would call it. So we didn't need the access to undergrads, to students, and all that. Now, what we learned in the last 4 years is actually that there are quite a few people happy to do the reverse commute. Jessica, you know how it is to go to Biogen. When I worked there and I commuted into Biogen out from where I live in Hopkinton, that was an hour plus commute every single day. I'm driving the same distance now, and I'm at work in 25 minutes.
Absolutely, and Worcester is still so accessible to Cambridge and Boston, and really everything you need.
Exactly. Yeah, I mentioned the airport situation, for example, for autologous. We have the Worcester Airport that's growing. We have the Boston Airport, of course, but there's also Hartford, Connecticut Airport. So for us, meaning, we need to get the product to the patient in a short time. We have fallback. If the Boston flight is canceled, we can switch to a Hartford or Worcester. So that all matters to us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Knut. So we're going to change topics a little bit here. And Jessica, you've had just such an amazing career in the life sciences. And as a woman leader, I love seeing the advancement of other women leaders. So, and it sounds like Lyndra is very invested in the advancement of women leadership and generally diversity and inclusion. I know women are at the helm over at Lyndra. So I'd love to hear from you. How critical is it to our life science ecosystem here in Massachusetts that we continue to create more diversity at the leadership level?
Thanks for asking, Kendall. For us, when we think about diversity, words like brain power, perspectives, creativity, and for us, empathy come to mind. There really is critical attributes of being an inclusive, diverse organization. We take it very seriously in Lyndra from the day that we started the company up to now, and I think it shows in our team and in our leadership and our board and our executive leadership and throughout the organization that our diversity is a deliberate act, and it's just not a page on a website that is about being inclusive, but actually demonstrating and being authentic every day that we are. And I think that what's a unique opportunity, although everything, Knut, you just said about the reverse commute when we were at Biogen, and that's all very true, but I think actually the new opportunities that COVID has presented to us, that we are building our organization even faster. We can touch other corners of Massachusetts with key talent anywhere and bring them to the workplace as if we're all working together, has made us even more efficient and more effective. I'm not sure all the real estate companies would like to hear this, but we're actually, I think, opportunistically making things more efficient and cost effective at using both facilities and also at home working, which is a critical key to some of the key talent that we've recruited. Last year alone, we doubled our organization in size, even during COVID. And I would think that if we did the numbers, which I haven't done, but they're almost all diverse candidates across the board. It's really an amazing opportunity to give so many new jobs and roles and resources to people that maybe have been cut out before because they need to be closer to Boston. And so that to us is really super critical. And at this point, we're looking at our third site, also to be started in Massachusetts, to grow the organization from another doubling in the next 18 to 24 months. And as we're talking with the local community leaders about where that might be, doing the same thing that Knut's doing, looking at something like 50 properties, and it will be a large scale GMP manufacturing, high tech manufacturing jobs. We intend to stay close within driving distance because it will make the company successful for speed, again, from the R&D to the manufacturing scale up, but connecting into communities that maybe don't have access to those kind of roles and responsibilities now, working with the local community colleges, some of the tech schools, in order to create a training ground and also a pipeline of candidates that may have been not able to access, such jobs in Cambridge or other places. So it is first and foremost in our mind. We like to think of it as we're auditing ourselves about what we've done well and what we could do in the future, and give back to our communities and make sure that we, take diversity back as a deliberate act and keep it front and center.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. It's just amazing to see companies like yours and so many companies here in Massachusetts so invested in ED&I, and we at Mass Bio are incredibly invested. And I know my friends over at Mass Life Science Center are as well, particularly with their leader, Ken, and such a passion and deep-rooted expertise in diversity and inclusion.
Thank you for that, Kendall, and you're absolutely right. There's nothing more important than D&I for us, and driving it in this space is critical and important. And I could not be more thrilled and excited to hear what Jessica just shared with us. So Jessica, if I can switch tempo just a little bit. We at the center are so incredibly proud that we've been able to support Lyndra Therapeutics over the past few years with our tax incentive program. And I'm wondering if you might take a moment and kind of share with us the impact of those dollars on the performance of your company and its growth.
We're very grateful. So thank you very much for the opportunity to apply to these kind of grants and make sure that the teams prosper because of it. For us, as a company that's only 5 years old, and the amount of work that we need to do, can you imagine how much innovation and infrastructure you have to build from scratch? Back to Knut's strategy, ours is the same. The only way to really establish a company successfully quickly is to build the infrastructure yourself, because you know best what's going on, and you can actually accelerate your growth and provide more jobs to your community, which is back to our diversity and inclusion and giving back to the environments that we work in, without the support of non-dilutive money, which is, we raise money, and this is what we do a lot. We're equity dollars are one source of money, but non-dilutive is absolutely critical. And I think government grants, partnership grants, and support in things like tax incentives and/or other infrastructure building support, it takes it all. It takes a village to build a new company, and it takes a village to give back to the villages. So I really super proud of it. Thank you very much. And we were able, if you look where we were a year ago, we had intended to double the organization from 50 to 100, build our manufacturing facility in Lexington, start our first phase 2 program and complete it. And during COVID, who knew that was going to happen? And we were able to only accomplish that through the support that we have with the dollars that come in lots of multiple ways. I'm so proud to say we didn't lay anybody off, we didn't create any furloughs, and we doubled the organization at the same time. So without the support of communities and tax dollars like you've provided, we just couldn't do it. So thank you.
No, you're quite welcome, and thank you for all that you're doing for Massachusetts and the jobs that you're creating. So this is incredibly exciting stuff. And Knut, I'm going to ask you the same thing because the Life Science Center also provided tax incentive dollars in a grant to Mustang Bio as well. And I'm curious to get your perspective on the impact of that funding for Mustang Bio.
Yeah, and similar to Jessica. So first of all, thank you for that incentive. It's really a helpful tool because, as Jessica pointed out, non-dilutive funded are always welcome in a company like ours. We are also only 4 or 5 years old. I mentioned earlier that we built the facility in our UMass Medical Science Park. When we built that facility, we actually were thinking that by the end of 5 years, we have a workforce of like 30 to 40 people. So we built the office. Now, a lot of things happened, including the tax incentive, which made us grow much faster than we anticipated. So in some respect, actually, you guys created a problem for me because my office is now way too small. Of course, we want to have people have a decent office space. So what it meant is it triggered, we have a second part of we actually leased 28,000 square foot in the building, the entire first floor. We only built out half of it. So what that all triggered was the rapid growth we had is actually that we started building out the second half now for more office space. So, it's a good problem to have, and I'm very happy we are at this point, we are around 70 people. And while we're not doubling in size in the next few months, I anticipate us to be closer to the 100 employees by the end of this year, if not the next. So the incentive is certainly a catalyst for a lot of things.
Well, thank you for that. And so glad to hear that we're causing good trouble. And
yeah, right.
We're causing good trouble.
Good problem.
I think it's just so important to note, and as you've heard, the Mass Life Science Center has been invaluable to the success of our cluster here in Massachusetts. So thank you to Ken and the team for all your incredible work and investment.
Yeah, I can only second that.
So based on all of our responses, there's no doubt Massachusetts is the hub of life sciences. And, part of that is our incredibly robust early stage innovation ecosystem. We've got 19 of the top 20 farmers with a physical presence right here in Massachusetts. We've got figures like being the #1 in venture and industry investment last year. We've got dozens of IPOs out of Massachusetts every year. We've got the workforce pipeline and talent. I could go on forever. So I'd love to hear from both of you, and I'll start with Jessica. But what is it here in Massachusetts that makes it the best place to start and grow your business?
Yeah, I think when you look at Lyndra's story, it embodies all those aspects. So can you imagine starting something from scratch and just looking at the task ahead, which you're super excited, you out licensing and in licensing on our side, technology from Dr. Robert Langer's lab at MIT that could transform lives with once weekly or once oral or once monthly oral medications. And being in drug development for 25 years, Knut and I used to work together and think about these things at Biogen. This is what we do. Like, we like to transform care models to provide solutions to patients to keep them healthy, keep them active, keep them with their loved ones for longer, and a very mission-driven organization. And within the communities of in-licensing technology, also at the same time out of Bob's lab, Tyler Grant and Rose Canasti, our first and second employees, joined the organization, and they're still with us today. Clearly, the passion, really smart individual, Rhodes Scholar. Tyler's a Rhodes Scholar. Rose has been all over working in Peace Corps and really started the culture for us of heart and innovation together. And to have that 5 years later, through scaling up, through building our first site here in Watertown, which I'm at right now, in an R&D center where every dollar counts. And funny enough, partnership with actually with Biogen at the time, where many of the things you see, we were able to bring over from there, and some partnership of helping the community together. They were changing some of their sites, and we were a new startup, and we reached out and said, what do you think? Can you share some of those resources? And we were able to create a community and an office space that felt like a real thriving biotech, which then actually had more resources want to come and join us, because it was just a fun place to be. To 2 years later, building out our organization in Lexington for manufacturing, and to looking ahead to a third site, which will have, probably between 150 and 200 jobs in the next 18 to 24 months in a large scale GMP manufacturing and a launch. The resources of doing that is just daunting. And to have both to innovate all of the testing model, we create artificial stomachs that actually simulate and emulate the human, so that we can actually test in advance and kind of do all these things. You just need an entire engineering, science, like-minded resource hub, and easy to get to. Like, everything can't be about traveling from one place to another when you actually internalize it yourself. So I think the story of Lyndra embodies how important it is to have the access to the people, the access to the universities, to actually the hospitals for doing the testing, to the creative models, to the transportation across the sites, to the non-dilutive funding that helps us move it faster and give back to the communities. All of that makes the system work. And we look ahead to looking at launching our first products in less than 10 years as a company. I don't know that you could do that if you were spread out across the different states, or even in different parts of the world. There's an opportunity cost to that, and often that speed and intellectual connection of your team and culture. I'm not sure we would have the culture we had unless we were close together and creating that emphasis on diversity and inclusion, and staying true to the Lyndra mission.
Thank you so much, Jessica. How about you, Knut?
Well, usually when somebody asks why we chose Massachusetts, my answer is why not, and that most of the time answers the question right away. But to be serious, of course we looked, where should we be, and the decision is not based because Knut lives in Massachusetts, or as a matter of fact, our CEO lives in New Jersey. So, and our founding entity is in New York. So one could have easily argued New Jersey would have been a better choice from that. But of course, what matters to us as biotech, especially when we start up, is the infrastructure, the access to talent, the access to investors that understand biotech. And of course, all that is in the greater Boston area, but if not Massachusetts altogether. So, when you look at these factors alone, Massachusetts is already attractive. It's also an attractive place to live. And as a matter of fact, we have quite a significant workforce coming from out of state that relocate to us. And of course, when they come and look at the job and look at the surrounding, they look at where they would live, with kids or without. And we haven't had anybody turn us down because they didn't want to relocate to Massachusetts. So, as I said before, we never regretted the decision of Worcester or Massachusetts to begin with. And it continues to be, I think, a really great environment.
Knut, I might have to borrow that as my new favorite tagline. Why Massachusetts? Why not?
Yeah, I didn't trademark, So feel free.
Well, thank you both so much. Over to you, Ken.
Terrific. Thank you, Kendall. Well, Jessica, Knut, Kendall, thank you all for such a rich and exciting conversation about your companies and your organizations and why Massachusetts and the Commonwealth is the leader and remains the leader, not only here in the United States, but in the world when it comes to life sciences. I think for our viewers who've had a chance to listen to the story of Lyndra Therapeutics and Mustang Bio, now you can understand why Massachusetts is the place to be. Or as Knut so aptly put it, why not? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.